Good morning. Can all of you hear me clearly? Okay, is my screen visible to all of you? Okay, I can see 18 people in the room, including myself. I'm going to call out the names of the people whose names are visible. I can see Aritra, Bhupesh Kumar, Chirag Jain, Harsh Saini, Harshraj Jala, Manoj Dhwani, no, sorry, Dhanwani, very sorry. Pavan M, Pratik Gupta, Puneet, Richa, Riddhi showing twice. Also Smriti Sonik. Is there anyone whose name I did not call out? I can see two people whose names are not visible. So Narinder, could you please go into your settings and put in your name? I think you'll need to click on your name in the list of participants. Would one of the others like to tell Narinder how they put in their name? Thank you, Pratik. Let's just give Narinder a minute to get that sorted out. In the meantime, let's run through a round of introductions. I don't think all of you filled in the expectations form. So I can see your names. Maybe in the chat window, if you can tell me what you're doing currently, which company you work for, what you do over there, what industry you work in, and also which courses you have already completed at Digital Vidya. And it'll be great if you can put all your details into a single message, so then that way I'll be able to keep track of who each person's details are, what each person's details are. Okay, great, Narinder, I can see your name now. Thank you. Excellent. So let's have introductions. I am muting everyone because with 17 people in the room, if the voice is also transmitting for 17 people, our connection will most certainly destabilize. So, through the course of the webinar, I'll be muting all of you. If you have anything you'd like to say, you can always type it into the chat window. And maybe at the end of the session, when we have our Q&A, if you prefer to speak rather than type, then I can definitely unmute you then. Okay. So Bhupesh says first session, senior citizen, entrepreneur, director for a hotel marketing company named the Lux Hotels. Harsh is in Delhi, completed 5 modules with DV, currently doing digital marketing training from DV. Okay, so I'm guessing this is the last one, right, Harsh, for you in the CDMM module. Puneet is an MBA with 10 years of work experience in the banking and financial services domain. Presently with EPRS Pune as head product and alliances, aspiring to become the CMO. Okay. It'll also be great if you tell me where you are. Like Harsh told me he's in Delhi. I'm in Mumbai, incidentally. I'll also give you my introduction. Harsha Jalla is a passionate blogger, ex Oracle consultant, MBA in marketing, want to focus on DM as a career and be a highly successful blogger. First module from Ahmedabad. Harsh, I'm a blogger as well. So shout out to the blogger. Chirag is an Amazon seller, have a Shopify store set up, have done some FB ads. I plan to learn how to acquire emails, use Facebook marketing to get some sales going. First course at DV, residing in the US, currently in Delhi for just a month. Okay, that's awesome. Aritra's first session, digital marketing, 2 years work ex, is aspiring to learn more about the technical aspects. Okay. Richa works in software testing, delivery manager in Quinox, actively involved pre sales and interested in setting up my blog with the end goal of monetizing it. First module from Bangalore. Welcome in. Pratik has 2 years of experience in healthcare in an MNC. Left the organization in July to pursue my passion in filming. Oh, wonderful. Pursuing this course to get into that line. Uh, Via digital marketing need to be the best to reach Hollywood and in New Delhi. Okay. Riddhi has completed 3 sessions of SEO, is in Delhi, currently interning with a market research and digital marketing agency. Oh, which one, Riddhi? Because I have a background in market research as well. So, always interested in other people in the domain as well. Want to make a career in this line and use it for my photography. Narinder works in DHHI India, Delhi as admin officer. Want to update my skills in digital marketing. Want to uh, take it as my career. And also working more than 9 years in DHHI India. Okay, sorry, I think that repeated. Manoj is, this is this first session, 15 years in retail, online retail specialist, helping brands build and manage online retail business, based in Mumbai. Riddhi is with NFX Digital. Smriti works with an upcoming web portal, worked as a software engineer with an MNC for 5 years, first module to enhance skills for digital marketing. Okay, so that's quite a few of you are bloggers, which is great, and you'll see why I'm saying that in a minute. This is more personally my own personal comment only. Uh, those of you who are not bloggers, don't worry. That doesn't mean that this session is not going to be useful for you. My name is Ramya Pandyan. I will be your webinar instructor for email marketing. Today's session is going to be split into two parts. We're starting a little after 10. We will go on till 1 o'clock. Actually, before that, we'll go on till around 11:30, 11:45. After which, I'll give you a break for about 10-15 minutes. So you can stretch, have a tea, coffee, just freshen yourselves up. And then come back and we'll start again at 12. And then I'll go on till around 1 o'clock. After 1, we'll have a 15 minutes Q&A interactive session. Maybe I'll ask you some questions. You can try your hand at answering them. And if you have any questions, you can answer them as well. The first half of today until the break will be an orientation where I'll talk about how this program works, what gets covered when, because usually people come to digital marketing and especially email marketing with a lot of ideas already about what it is and what it is not. So we find it's best to bring everyone to the same page. So the first half of the session is what I call an orientation. Also, quite a few of you are new to Digital Vidya. So this will be useful because I'll be showing you exactly how a Digital Vidya module works, how my module works. For those of you who've already completed a few, that's fine. Don't worry. But each instructor does things a little differently. So please do pay attention. Okay, good luck before starting. Yes, absolutely. So, Narinder and everyone in the class, all the very best, and please wish me the same because this is as much a learning process for me as it is for you. That's why I do what I do. Teaching is like that. So, yeah, that's what is going to be. The first half is going to be orientation, and you'll see what the second half is going to be as we go along. My name is Ramya Pandyan. That's me in the top left corner. I'm an MBA and I have a degree in maths. I have been part of the corporate world for about 7 years. My overall work experience spans over 15 years. For the first 7, 8 of those years, I worked as a management professional. I worked for a company called Deloitte Touche Tohmatsu as a consultant first. And then I spent 4 years with the Nielsen Basis company, market research and management consulting. I have also written independently, freelance for publications like Femina and Marie Claire. In the past 7 years, I've been an independent. I started blogging in 2004, which makes me one of India's earliest bloggers. And I've had the good fortune to be able to channel that into work, combine that with my professional background. I've written over 50 articles for Yahoo microsite for Dove. I've also set up the content team for an agency called Social Wavelength, which is a JW Thompson company now called Meerum India. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Riddhi. Thank you, Puneet. I've also consulted for digital startups like Price Baba, and I've written for over 2 years for Asian Paints internal blogs. It's been turned into a book as well for their employees. So my personal and professional interests lie in the digital space. I think it's a really exciting space to be in, a really exciting time to be in this space. So many things happening. It's changing the way we are doing business, the way we are interacting with each other, the way we are living life. I have been teaching with Digital Vidya for over a year now. I teach the email marketing module on the CDMM program. I also teach special sessions on blogging and online reputation management, which your coordinators will let you know as and when they happen. They happen once in every couple of months. And as CDMM module students, you'll have access to these. So, this is my background, and everyone here is a professional. Even those of you who've not worked before, you're still part of you're still taking professional learning, which makes you a professional as well. That means each of you has some ideas, some thoughts, and some experiences, which can all be of help and use to each other. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you as well. I'll take this through and show you how this works and how we can collaborate on this program. So this program is for 4 weeks. So 4 Saturdays, including today's. They'll all be from 10 a.m. to 1:15 p.m. Your coordinators will send you the details of each one. This is our agenda for today. So, my goal at the end of today's session is for you to have debunked a lot of the myths that abound in the space, and also learn how to get your email across lots of barriers that exist that you may not know about. So, today's session is going to be about identifying what is stopping your email from getting across and how you can make sure it gets across. Once that's done, you'll see we can move on to the more exciting, glamorous aspects of email marketing. Today is going to be fairly basic that way. I'll start with the lesson plan and resources and go on to email marketing myths, after which I'll do something called a knowledge check. So, how we do this? Yes, absolutely, Chirag. And I'm going to even tell you in exactly when we are going to do each of those things. So let me start by telling you the people that you need to know about. The most important person that you know who can really make a difference in your Digital Vidya program is your coordinator. Does everyone here know who their coordinator is? Do you know how to get in touch with them? Is there anyone here who does not know their coordinator? Okay, that's right. Your coordinator is the person who sent you the link to this webinar today, sent you the reminder mail. Each student has their own coordinator. Every instructor also has their own coordinator. Your coordinator will send you reminders, your coordinator will send you updates. They'll also share resources, a lot of things that you need to keep in touch with, a lot of things that are available to you. Your coordinator is your go to person for all these things. So please feel free to reach out to your coordinator for any requests that you have regarding the Digital Vidya programs. They are a really dedicated group of people, and they are there to make sure that your program goes smoothly. The second group is the tech support team. Let's not forget this is happening online, which means that it brings with it all the advantages as well as the issues that come with being online. I'm sitting in India, and those of you who are in India know that technology issues keep happening. This is very real. This could very well happen. This doesn't have to do with how good or bad the company is. This has everything to do with how solid internet connections are. So before we go ahead, I would request you to shut down any other programs that you're running right now other than GoToMeeting, because every program that you run will slow down your machine and your internet connection. So to get the maximum out of this webinar, it'll be great if you can focus your attention as well as your internet connection only on this webinar. In case I get disconnected, you may lose the class, in which case my request is that you sign right back in. It doesn't happen often, but it has been known to have happened. These are unforeseen circumstances, in which case this might happen. But the smaller things that could happen is at an individual level, it might be in your city or your internet service provider might be going through some issues. You might find a lag in the video or a lag in what I'm saying, or you may not be able to hear me. You may not be able to see the screen correctly. If any of those happen, don't worry, there is a group of people standing by to address issues exactly like that, and that's your tech support team. There is a tech support number that you can reach out to. I'm going to give you the number, and the number is 80810 33033. I've shared it in the chat window. In addition to that, you'll also see the number on the top right hand corner of every one of my slides. Can you see that top right corner? So I'll give you 10 seconds to copy down that number and keep it handy. So if you lose me, you're not able to hear any of those things, please call the tech support team. They will be able to help you. Okay? All right. And finally, the least important person in this team that you need to know is me. I'm the webinar instructor. I will be running your webinars. This one being the first of 4 webinars that you will have of 3 hours, 15 minutes each, including the break. I will take you through all the concepts that are important to you. But please keep in mind that the webinars are a very small part of the entire learning curriculum. All of you are here to become better digital marketers, to help take your own initiatives forward, to become better professionals. So I think it's great. I think it also takes a lot of commitment to get up on a Saturday morning and come in and sit down and learn. I've done it myself, studied while I was working. So I know just how much effort and how much commitment it takes. My request to you would be to not waste that commitment. Please make use of all the resources that we have available for you. Keep in mind that this is a master's level program, which means that you are expected to do a lot of the work. Digital Vidya and I will provide you with all the resources and support that you need, but it'll be you driving this forward. Okay? Let me run you through the resources that are available to you. This webinar is being recorded, as will every other webinar that you sit through at Digital Vidya. These recordings will be shared with you. Your coordinator will send you a link sometime, well, maybe not tomorrow because tomorrow is Sunday and it being the New Year weekend. But definitely by Monday, you will receive a link to the video recording of this webinar. I'll also show you where you can go and access past recordings. There are several instructors taking each of the programs, and all our recordings are available to all participants of Digital Vidya. So, like I mentioned, the course curriculum is exactly the same, but every instructor has their own nuance, their own examples, their own experiences. And I'm very happy to say that I share this platform with some very talented, very experienced, highly qualified people. So definitely encourage you when you have the time to go and listen to the recordings of the same lesson by other instructors as well. You just might pick up some additional things as well, because it's really very, very useful if you can do that. In addition to that, there are reading notes available. The presentations that I take you through will not be shared in exactly the same way for a number of reasons. Firstly, because these presentations are created so that they display well on a webinar. You have the video recording for that, but all the concepts that I'll be covering will be available to you in the form of notes that are easier to read. I will show you where you can access these notes as well. So for every week session, you have a set of notes available. You are welcome to make your own notes as well. In fact, I would encourage you to make your own notes. I don't know about you, but I find I always learn best if I'm making notes in addition to whatever is being given to me. It just registers the ideas and the concepts much better for me. And finally, there's something called forum discussions, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so is there anyone here who does not know what the LMS is? Digital Vidya has their own internal network called the Digital Vidya Learning Management System, or the LMS. And every single person who's part of the DV community, this includes coordinators, instructors, and students, every single one of us has a unique login ID for the LMS. Okay, so Smriti doesn't know. Smriti, you'll need to speak to your coordinator. Please write to your coordinator and ask them to give you login credentials for your LMS. They probably would have shared it with you. You may not have realized that those are your LMS credentials. Please write to your coordinator. They will help you in logging into the LMS. And don't miss out on this, because the LMS contains everything that you need to complete this program. Okay. All right. So then you should be getting it. I'll also make it a point to remind my coordinator to remind your coordinators. So that's Smriti, Manoj, and Chirag. Okay, not to worry, that's fine. You don't need the LMS right now when you're going through the webinar, but definitely by this weekend, you should have your login credentials. Just in case, my suggestion is once the session is over, just drop an email to each of your coordinators, a 2-line email saying, hey, I need my login credentials for the LMS, and they should get back to you as soon as possible. So I'm going to get out and show you what the LMS is. The LMS can be accessed at digitalvidya.com/learn. If you go there now, you will find that you're being asked for a login. So don't do that right now. I've logged into my own LMS and this is what it looks like. When you log in, you'll be shown a list of all the programs that you are taking. Mine is the Certified Email Marketing Master Course. So click on that. And when you do, you'll find there's a number of things there. I want you all to do this after you finish the program today. If you have your credentials, please go in and log in and try these things after the webinar is over. If you don't, please write to your coordinator immediately asking them to send you the login credentials because you need to do these. So the first thing to do is go into pre-reading material. It says the simple guide to email marketing. Please download this and read it. This is something that you will need before you start the email marketing program, but that's fine. Some of you don't have your LMS credentials yet, so not a problem, but please make sure you download it and read it before our next session next week. And once you've done that, please mark it as complete. This helps the Digital Vidya team track your progress and see what else you need. Okay. Now let's go back to the home page. And there's something that says lesson 1. You'll see there are 4 lessons, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4. Each one corresponds to 1 week of your email marketing program. Let's go into lesson 1. Under lesson 1, you can see it says presentation deliverability. This will let you download the reading notes for today's session. I'm not going to download it here, but this is where you can download it. In addition to that, there are past recordings here. Yours is the Saturday batch. You can go in here. You can also see the past recordings, my sessions, and the other instructors' sessions. You can click on any one of them and it will take you to the recording. You can also see the Sunday batch, the Tuesday, and the Thursday batch. And under lesson 1, you'll find there is an assignment. This assignment is a prerequisite. This is something you need to complete before you will get your certificate. Details on how to complete the assignment, what the assignment is, and how to submit the assignment are all over here. Please go through all of these today itself after the session is over. Once you complete the assignment, what you do is upload it here. Pick it up from your desktop, upload it here. Once you upload it, it will be visible to you and to the Digital Vidya team. So you won't be able to see each other's assignments. You will only be able to see your own assignment. The DV team will correct it and give you feedback on it. Okay, so this is part of your program. Let me go back. Similarly, you will find under lesson 2, here's the presentation that you can download. That's the reading notes and the recordings. And then you mark it as complete once you're done with that. There's lesson 3, which also has the reading notes and the recordings. Mark it as complete. And lesson 4. Reading notes, recordings, mark it as complete. Beyond that, there's also a number of other things that are available to you. Please do go in and check all these. This library of resources is available to you, and all of these will make your email marketing understanding a whole lot better. Okay? So this is as far as your course itself goes. These are the things that you will need to do and complete. What do you do if you have any questions? For example, once you start the assignment, you don't know how to submit it, or you're wondering when something will get covered. What you can do is go into the discussion forum over here. The discussion forums are broken down into different topics. Right here we find email marketing. Go into email marketing. In all likelihood, any question that you have would already have been asked and answered. You can go and look for those. If you can't find it, you can go down here and post your own questions. Somebody on the Digital Vidya team, which could be me or one of the other instructors, will respond to your question within a couple of days. Okay, within a day or two. It's typically not longer than that. And sometimes even the CEOs answer these questions. Is everyone with me so far? Was that clear? Yeah? Excellent. So, those are your reading notes and your LMS forum, everything that's available to you on the LMS. Those are your resources. Let's talk about the webinar itself. I've introduced myself to you. Each of these webinars is going to be about 3 hours and 15 minutes because I'll give you the break as well. In terms of what you need to do, I need you to participate, which means that it'll be great if you log in on time. Now, I know realistically, being Saturday, sometimes people find it difficult to get in on time, but please try and ensure that you're here on time. I will not be able to go longer than the allocated time. So, this means that we need to follow certain guidelines and rules. One of the rules that I have for my webinar is if we want to finish by time, then I'll need to manage the flow of the presentations. So, my request is if you have any questions, please keep them till the end. I have set aside 15 minutes just for the questions. And even if your questions go on longer, I will be willing to stay back, but I cannot keep the other participants here longer than that. So, which means that I need to complete the lesson before that. So, my request to you is please keep your questions handy. Any questions that come up, I will be addressing them, but I'll be addressing them at the end. Okay. So make a note of your question. One more thing you can do is every slide has a slide number in the bottom right corner. You can also make a note of the slide number. I'll be happy to come back and redo the slide or repeat a slide if you want me to do that. I'll be taking something called a knowledge check at the end of every half session. A knowledge check is not a test. Think of it more like a few leading questions to get you thinking and get our conversation going. These questions will be based on the half session that we've just covered. Okay. I'll read out the questions to you. They will also be up on the slide. You can type in your answers, or if you prefer to speak, then you can let me know. I will unmute you and you can speak out your answer and we can discuss them. My request is for you to participate. I'll not be keeping track of who answers and who doesn't. None of that happening. This is not for evaluation. This is more for you to see how far what you've learned and whether you've learned it correctly. So, my request is to participate as much as possible in that. I will also be asking you for feedback towards the end of each session. This feedback I will be using to figure out how to improve upcoming sessions. So, the next session, how to do things maybe a little differently. If maybe examples of a different sort are needed, maybe things are needed to be done slightly in a different way. But that's something that's absolutely required. And this works both ways. I like to talk to people who will talk to me. So if you give me feedback, then I will answer all your questions and not otherwise. Is that agreed? Can we agree on that? And you can feel free to give me honest feedback. The Digital Vidya team is also looking at this. So if there's something that is not working for you, please feel free to talk about that in the feedback section or to your coordinator. That's perfectly fine. We want to make sure that you get the best out of this experience. Okay. And both of us together, what we are going to be doing, we'll have an interactive session at the end of each webinar, okay? Where you can ask me questions. If you have any thoughts, comments, anything, feel free to share them. If you see any examples that you think are interesting, please feel free to bring them along. I love it when participants do that because it just expands the view of all of this. I think you will, Manoj, but that's something you'll need to check with your coordinator. I don't really know. I think you should have access to it. In any case, all of it is things that you can either download or access from outside. The recordings are all on private YouTube channels. So the links will all take you to private YouTube channels. You can save those links. And the notes are things that you'll be able to download. Right? So that's something that anyway you will have access to. I'm just not sure whether you'll have access to the LMS, how long you'll have access to afterwards. Okay. All right. Self work. So remember, I said there's a lot of things for you to do. Here's a list of things that you will need to do. So there are actually 4 quizzes that are part of the curriculum. These quizzes are under change at the moment, which is why they're not showing on the LMS. My coordinator has said that they will be updating and putting the quizzes back in shortly. If you're not able to find the quizzes in the first week of January, what you can do is speak to your coordinator. The quizzes all appear one for each of the weeks, and the system will correct the quizzes for you. It's an interactive quiz. So each quiz only takes you about 10 minutes, and the system itself will give you a score on those quizzes. And you can take the quiz again if you want to. So please ask your coordinators if you don't see the quizzes within a week or so. In addition to this, there is the assignment which I've shown you. You'll get your certificate only once you complete the assignment, which means that there isn't really a firm deadline. But my suggestion is that you complete the assignment before this webinar is over, because if you're facing any problems, you'll be able to come back and ask me questions, because you only have access to me till this webinar series is over. So that's a month, which is why I'm telling you about the assignment right away. My request is that you go and look at the assignment right away today itself, because it will take you that much time to complete it properly. Okay? And these go hand in hand, feedback and all the work that you're going to do. This is what we are going to be covering in the second half of today. At the end of today's second half session, you should be able to answer questions like, why does my email land in the junk folder? How can I avoid getting marked as spam? These are super important questions, and you'll see why they are important. Next week's session is where we'll do the glamorous part of email marketing, which is, how do I create fancy emails? How can I create templates? How can I communicate well? How can I write good email text? How can I target my emails best to different customers? It will be checked, Riddhi, but I will not be available to you. The DV team will check it for you. You can still have it checked. You can interact with them and engage. You can leave questions in the discussion forums. I might be answering it, but it's going to be a lot easier if we are able to have a live conversation with it, right? Otherwise, it'll be messages passing back and forth. So, and also, it might not be me who's answering it. But if you're doing it while the class is going, I'll also be able to point out saying, remember, Riddhi, we talked about this in lesson 1, so this is what you need to do. So it's just easier and a lot more optimal if you do it before the month is over. Next week, we'll also be looking at something called optimization, which is, how can I use email to further my marketing objectives? How can I stand out from this clutter of email? How can I attract more people to my website, my e-commerce store? How can I assess the results from email marketing? In our third week, we'll touch on MailChimp. One of you asked about MailChimp. MailChimp is the world's most popular email service provider. It's a very, very handy tool. It has some free features and some paid features. I will be demonstrating some of the free features to you. MailChimp allows you to create fancy emails. It allows you to track how your email campaigns are doing. It lets you see how to use that data and plow it back into future campaigns. In short, the demo will help you get started on MailChimp on your own. We'll also look at a number of case studies, what some of the big companies are doing, what some smaller companies have also done, very interesting things that they've done on email, how email marketing fits in the entire digital marketing scenario, how you can use each of the digital marketing tools to feed back into your email marketing campaigns. And in our last and final week, we'll look at database management, how to use the information that you have about your customers, how to target communication at them, how to manage databases, how to segment. All of these we will cover in the fourth week. I will also be showing you some tools. Some of those tools are already listed in the toolkit in the LMS. So feel free to go and check those out in advance of the class if you want to. By the way, please don't feel like you have to wait until the webinar is over to go and read or view those videos. You are most welcome to do pre-reading work or go through those even before the class is done. I really, really love engaging with participants who've already done their homework and looked ahead and gone ahead and read things already, because then the kind of questions that you will have will be at a much more professional level, a much more higher level. Okay, I will of course address, I'll of course be taking you through all the chapters and everything. I'm not going to skip anything, but it's something that will help you a lot if you've already gone through it beforehand. In the last session, I'll also demonstrate a lot of tools, about 20 tools, which will make all the tasks that you're doing on email marketing a whole lot easier, faster, and more efficient. This is our agenda through the entire month. Today is an orientation and we'll talk about deliverability in email systems. Next week, we'll cover the basics of email creation and optimizing email. In our third week, we'll cover MailChimp and email as a marketing tool. And in our fourth and final week, we'll cover databases and the tools available to you. So let's start with email marketing. What do you understand about email marketing? Email is the oldest digital technology available, right? Of all the modules that all of you are learning or will go ahead and learn, email is the oldest of all of these. You already would have some ideas, some thoughts about email marketing. So let's hear them. What do you think? What are your expectations of email marketing? And you can also, if you want to, you can also mention what you're hoping to learn from this course in that case. Type in your answers into the chat window. Incidentally, one more thing. How many people here know what jargon is? How many people here know the meaning of jargon? Yes, terminologies. Everybody's familiar with the term jargon? Yes, fancy ones. Fancy phrases like blue sky thinking. So, to people who are not familiar, if I say blue sky thinking, what does that mean to you? You might wonder what that means, right? You don't know what it means. I'll tell you a secret. I have no idea what blue sky thinking means either. Blue sky thinking is an example of jargon. It means something to a certain group of people and it means absolutely nothing to everyone else. So, jargon is usually very fancy terms or very specific, very technical terms, things like that. I find jargon is very limiting. It doesn't help anyone. We are all people, we are all professionals here, and we all come from different backgrounds. So let's not waste time using jargon. Let's keep it really, really simple. I am perfectly fine if you talk to me like I'm a 10-year-old. In fact, I encourage participants to do that. Speak to me like I'm a 10-year-old because then you will be boiling down every idea to its core essentials and you can be sure everybody will understand exactly what you mean. We'll not waste any time in trying to figure out what does this word mean, what does that phrase mean. Okay, so without jargon, please tell me what you think of email marketing. It is full screen, Narinder. It'll be great if you can attend these webinars using a laptop rather than a tablet or a mobile phone, because we found that tablets and mobile phones don't let you see all the details that well. Okay, so Manoj wants to know how and when is email marketing effective given the number of others. Slow but sure resource. Email marketing from receiver's perspective is emails that inform me of unique offerings someone has to offer. These have links to websites or blogs. Marketing through email. Need to learn how to be more crisp, not to go out of topic. It's like sending invites for something you've created or marketing. Purpose is to bring relevant audience to a site where you want them. Going right to the inbox, not spam. Deliver mails in inbox, not spam or promotions. You can make a series of automated emails based on products they add to cart. Okay, so all of you have various different views on the entire world called email marketing. Some of you have mentioned automation, some of you have mentioned targeting, audience response, sharing information, commercial messages sent to a group of people, communities like politics, health of a subject, making personalized emails. So, very good. A lot of really, really good ideas. All of these, so yes and no. All of these are part of email marketing, but none of them are the entirety of email marketing. How to make content appealing? Yes, These are all things. So this is what all of next week's session is going to be about, Aritra. To show a brand getting leads at low cost, okay? So here's a reality. Don't we all feel like this? How many of you travel for at least half an hour to get to work every day? At least 20 minutes to half an hour every day. You're all seeing different ads on billboards and hoardings while you're doing that. You may listen to the radio while you're traveling, which means you're also hearing ad commercials there. If you watch TV every day, then there are ads hitting you there. Your mobile phone is on through the day and you're getting calls from call centers, you're getting SMSs, promotional SMSs, and your email is full of promotional mails as well. In the past 24 hours, how many commercial messages do you think you have been exposed to? Ads, print ads, TV ads, radio ads, commercial messages on message. More than 100, right? At least 50. I think that's a fair estimate. Can you tell me any two of these messages that you remember that you have been exposed to in the past 24 hours? Any two? So from 11 in the morning on Friday, yesterday, to today, what you've seen. So Narinder remembers a bank and Mintra. Pawan remembers an iPhone 7 ad. Chirag remembers JB Zoo product of the month. Aritra also remembers Mintra. Riddhi remembers Apple, SRK Dubai, Mintra, Amazon, eBay. Can you see patterns in these? You can see the same brands coming up, but also a lot of people don't even remember. I don't remember. And I'm a marketer and I teach marketing and I don't remember. I will not be able to tell you even two commercial messages that I remember from the past 24 hours. Right? Why? Because too many of them. I've looked at so many messages, deleted so many SMSs, fielded off so many phone calls, seen so many ads on websites, seen so many emails. I can't remember any of them. How many of you look at your promotions folder on Gmail? So here's something that I want you to do starting today. Starting today, I would like all of you to spend 5 minutes looking at your promotions folder and also your spam folder. Just go through it, see what kind of mails come in there, how many times those mails are coming, what kind of content is there. Just make your observations on it. 5 minutes a day only on emails. At least during the course of this program, for a month, do that because your promotions folder and the spam folder are the most likely destinations for your emails. You need to know these two places like the back of your hand. We'll talk about this in more detail, but your promotions folder is like your secondary teacher sitting in your mailbox. Now let's come back here. This is the space that you are competing with as a marketer trying to get your message across. So, what do most marketers do in order to try and stand out in all this? See, all of us in this class, we are all marketers who are highly aware of brands, and even among us, we are struggling to remember the at least two brands from the last 24 hours. So, what are all of us doing? We are shouting louder, advertising more, putting up bigger posters, brighter hoardings, flashing ads, display ads, banners, right? More advertisements. What do you do beyond this? Offers, discounts, promotions, right? How many of you think this is marketing? It's okay, you can tell me the truth. My job here is to help you learn things that'll take you forward. How many of you think these are marketing? So here's a question. Remember what I said about 10-year-old? I'm going to boil this down to a 10-year-old's level. As a marketer, what is your final objective? What is your final objective? Your final objective is to earn money for your business, right? Whether it's your employer or your own company, it's to earn money for your business. To me, all of these sound like ways to spend money, not earn money. So keep this in mind. You are not an email marketer, you are not an advertiser, you are not a discount maker. You are a marketer. And a marketer's job is to earn money. A marketer's job is not to come out with the most discounts or the best ads or the biggest offers. A marketer's job is to ensure that there is as much revenue as possible coming in. I think sometimes marketers get a little lost in that. They forget what their job is. Your job is not to create the best possible emails or even the brightest possible ads or give the deepest discounts. I'm not going to deny that all of these have some merit in the entire marketing universe, but I like to think of all of these as things that I do when I don't have a choice, not things that I do because they are my job. Are you with me so far? Yeah? I also tend to think of promotions, discounts, and offers. Okay, so Riddhi, I don't really like promotions, discounts, and offers because I see these as, firstly, I think a lot of marketers get lost in these. They think their job is to bring out promotions and offers and discounts. No. Our job as marketers is to bring in revenue to our business. Some of these may be ways to increase revenue, but let's be very clear on that. This is not our objective. Our objective is what these are supposed to result in, which means keep an eye on the revenue it's bringing in. 25% discount means that I'm earning 25% less revenue. Can I justify that? If and only I can justify that, if and only if I can justify that in terms of the overall revenue coming in, then it makes sense for me to do that. Why am I harping on this? I'm harping on this because when it comes to digital marketing, it's very, very easy for money to just run like water. You've got to be very, very careful. Digital marketing is wonderful for a number of reasons. Being glamorous is not one of those reasons. Digital marketing is wonderful because it allows you to track every single thing that you're doing. It allows you to put a tangible value on every rupee or dollar you are spending. Your job as a marketer is to ensure you're getting the most bang for the buck, like the Americans say. You're getting the most value out of everything that you're spending on, which means don't indiscriminately start jumping into offering discounts, promotions, and offers. Think about whether there is a better way to do this. In my mind, offering a customer a discount is like bribing them to buy your product. That's a little roundabout logic, isn't it? Do you need to bribe them? Is there a better way for you to start a business with them, transact with them? Keep this in mind when we are talking through email strategy all through the length of the course. Okay? Here's something I picked up from an infographic online from a site called Webpage FX. It said for every $1 you spend on email marketing, you average $44.25 in return. That's how trackable digital marketing is. Email marketing generates 50% more leads for 33% less investment. Email marketing is considered the best strategy for awareness, which is making people aware of your product or brand, for acquisition, which is getting more people interested in you, for conversion, which is turning interested people into people who are buying, and retention, which is making sure that people who are currently buying you don't stray and go and buy someone else. Take a minute and visit this website. I'm going to share the link with you. It's internetlivestats.com. Click on the link. You will see what I want you to see and come back and tell me when you've finished. What are you seeing? Internet live stats. Oh my god, yes. Thank you, Ritu. That is the reaction I was hoping for. OMG. Yeah. Email being the oldest tool, right? It also means the email, I like to think of email as our first home on the internet. The first thing that people do, most people, when they come online for the first time, one of the first things they do is set up an email account for themselves, right? In today's day and age, if you have a smartphone, you need an email. If you have an Android phone, you need a Gmail account, right? Exactly. Yeah. And by the time I finish this sentence, that number has jumped to another 10,000, maybe more. Yeah, absolutely. So it is definitely a fabulous medium, but here's what, it's also the most crowded medium. How many people here are familiar with Bombay? Either you live in Bombay or you have visited Bombay. I'm a Bombay person, and Bombay has this place called Dadar. Dadar station at 6 in the evening on a Friday evening, a weekday, Friday evening. It's the most crowded place in Bombay. Bombay is the most crowded place in this country. Now take the other station times maybe 100, and that still doesn't compare to the email universe at the moment. It's really, really crazy, right? Your email is going to have to make its way through all those other emails. So, this is where I start to get a little ominous and scary. You have to find a way to get your email heard and seen across all those emails. Here's a sample of some emails. You would have all have seen emails like this, right? These are some promotional emails. The one on the right is from Chumbak, the one on the left says ICICI Lombard. Designing these emails is really very easy. You'll see next week I'll show you some tips and tricks on what you should do to make your email a lot more effective. And in the third week, when I show you MailChimp, both of these are emails that I can design for you in maybe half an hour, 15 minutes each. If I have the images, especially, it should not take more than 10 minutes each. It's really easy to design the emails. The tricky bit is getting these seen, getting these across to the recipient. Here's a scary statistic. You don't need to be a graphic designer. I can do this using just MailChimp. I don't need Photoshop or any of the other graphic design. No, don't need any of those. Can be done on MailChimp. Free service can be done on MailChimp's free account. Exactly. But here's the scary bit. After you do all those awesome designs, your email may not even reach the inbox. 20% of emails don't even reach the inbox. And this is as of 2015, which means that this report, if it were taken today, they've not come out with this report yet. I'm sure this number has probably jumped up. Yeah, like Narinder says, why? What? I'm assuming that's what your question was, Narinder. What is happening to those 20% emails, those remaining five emails, those that one email in five? Where is it going? Yes and no. So let's understand what's happening. Let's understand what's happening there, right? But are you all with me that this is a massive concern? It's not one in 10,000 emails, it's one in five emails. And you saw the number of emails passing right now, which means 20% of those emails are not even going to reach the recipient. What are those emails and why are they getting stopped? First of all, let's look at some of the problematic emails that get stopped. This is an example of one of those emails. This is a kind of email called a phishing email. A phishing email is one that tricks recipients into sharing sensitive information. So look at this email. It says mksaxena1970 at gmail.com sent you $20 to try the all new Empower. If you saw this email in your mailbox, how many of you would click on this button saying receive your $20? You wouldn't, right? you know that this is likely to be a problematic email. A lot of recipients still don't know. So the email systems have the security measures in place to try and weed out as many of these kind of emails as possible. These emails are called phishing emails because this email very clearly is trying to get you to share some sensitive information. If I click on this email, it'll probably install a virus on my machine, or it might install a keystroke tracker, which means that it is tracking all the which keys I am typing on, which means it might get to track my passwords. It might even ask me to log into my bank account, if I don't know enough about it, I might end up doing that. It could cause a big problem for me. This is an example of a phishing email. All of you would be also familiar with the Nigerian princess emails. Those are still in existence. I still see those. The Nigerian princess email usually goes something like, "Hello, my name is," and there's an unusual sounding name. I am the princess of, it's usually some small country in Africa, Nigeria or one of the others. My father has been captured by rebels, and I'm going to inherit 250 million pounds. I'm looking for a nice man to marry and transfer all this money to his account. If you send me your bank account details, I will transfer all this and then I can come and marry you. A lot of people have fallen prey to this. This is an example of a phishing email. It's a very, very serious problem, and one of the security measures on the internet tries to stop these phishing mails. The second kind is mails like these, which is email spoofing. And these are emails from a forged sender address. I showed you this email earlier from ICICI Lombard. If you look at the sender's email address, it says support@efashionguru.com. This is the reason this email landed in my spam folder and not in my promotions folder. This is one of the direct pointed reasons. Otherwise, the email looks very, very normal, right? All of you saw the same email 3 slides ago. And if you had seen it in your mailbox, you probably would have thought it to be a genuine email from ICICI Lombard and gone ahead and clicked on it. You may not have noticed this. So there are systems in place to also keep such emails from intruding into your mailbox, such emails from causing danger to you. These are spoofing emails. There are also security measures in place to weed out these mails. Okay, so I'm going to go a little slower, but Narinder, if I repeat every slide, we'll be staying here till 3 o'clock. Okay, so just pay a little attention closely. Also, the video is there, so you can go back and listen to it again. This email was blocked because it is attempting to get the recipient to share sensitive information. Everything that I'm saying is also there on the slide. Okay, this email got blocked because it's not being sent by ICICI Lombard. Look at the sender's email address. So I'll do it for this slide, but Narinder, in the future, I won't be able to repeat every single slide because we'll go on till 3 o'clock then. I can't really do that, right? So, and finally, yes, absolutely, Amit. If someone is pretending to be me, isn't that something that you will find very suspicious? If you receive an email from Ramya Pandian, you assume you're getting it from your webinar instructor, and then you realize Ramya Pandian has not sent you the email. Isn't that something that you will be suspicious of? Why would someone impersonate someone else? It's a big problem. If you've ever seen the Coca-Cola lottery email, that's another example of it. It's a very basic and a very old example of the same. It causes a number of problems, and there are security measures to stop email spoofing as well. It's a very serious issue. You will notice a lot of your banks will also keep telling you, please don't open any emails that do not come from us. We will not ask you for passwords. We will not. Exactly. Yes, but these brands are not the ones that are sending it. ICICI would never send an email from an account that did not say ICICI.com or ICICI Bank or ICICI Loans or any of those. This is someone else pretending to be ICICI. And finally, there is spam. Spam means a lot of different things to different people, but in some, spam is typically advertising messages, adult related content, and unwanted financial messages. What I find interesting is that advertising messages also land up in this. A lot of people assume that email marketing is about running ads on email. I've seen a lot of people, and this is something I thought as well before I got into email marketing myself. Haven't you seen, how many of you have seen this? Something that you've seen as a poster also comes to you as an email. The exact same poster comes to you in the form of an email. Have you ever seen this? You saw it on a hoarding and now it's come on an email. Typically you will find it in your spam folder. And very often it may not even load with the image. So all you'll get is a blank email. That's not email marketing. And you'll see why that's not email marketing as we go ahead later today. I'm going to share a link with you. So, this is something I keep doing. Please read this later. Whenever I see an interesting article, I usually share it with my class. Just click on it and keep it so you can read it later. It's a good article about all the reasons that Gmail mocks spam. Oops. So these two links were not supposed to come up first. Here are some things that you may be doing which you don't even realize are problematic on email. Okay, the animation was not supposed to come like that, but if you've ever picked off email addresses off the internet, like picked it up from a mailing list or from a blog or an internet forum, a discussion board, and just sent off emails, how many of you have considered doing that, or maybe you've done that already? If you have, please don't do that. This is not something you should be doing, for the simple reason that the people whose email addresses are listed there have not shared it with you. They don't know who you are, so what you're doing is sending them unsolicited emails. Email marketing has a concept called opting in. Opting in means that you only mail people who have given you permission to mail them. Sending people whose email addresses you've received from one of these emails is like saying, let's say I'm talking on the phone to my best friend. Okay, I'm on the phone and I'm talking to her, and she's asking me, she wants to send me something, and she's asking for my phone number, uh, or let's say my home address. So I'm telling her my home address, and somebody happens to be passing by, and they overhear it, and they land up at my home. Would that be okay? It won't, right? It would be deeply creepy if someone did that, right? So if you send someone an email when they don't know you and they have not asked for your email, then that's exactly what you're doing. So don't do that. The internet has ways to penalize you for it. You may not even realize you are being penalized for these. If you have ever sent out an email using bots, a bot is a program that automates any action on the internet. A lot of spammers use bots. A bot typically runs through the internet, picks up email addresses, and sends out one automatic email to all of them. That's an act of email villainy, also. If you have ever bombarded email addresses that may or may not exist, that's also an act of email villainy. So let's say you just want to send out an email to 100 email addresses, and you say, I'm going to run through all the possible names at the rate digitalvidya.com. So Amey at digitalvidya.com, Ajay at digitalvidya.com, Anjana at digitalvidya.com, and so on and so forth till you finish all the A's and then you get to the B's. This is called a directory harvest attack. It's an attack because the Digital Vidya server is under a lot of load if it gets hit by so many emails in one go. Also, a lot of those email addresses may not even exist. So all you're doing is bombarding the world, the internet, with emails and hoping some of them will hit. None of these are email marketing, and all of these are actions that will be penalized in some way or the other. I've shared two links with you. Please click on them and read them later. That's not enough, because unless people have opted to receive emails from you, unless people have explicitly given you permission, you're legally not allowed to mail them. And I'll show you how there is a problem if you still mail them. So, assuming all these things, email marketing is not bombing random email addresses with a single email. if any of you thought email marketing was about creating one fabulous email and sending it out to one database of hundreds of people, that's not email marketing. That is bulk mailing, and bulk mailing has its own issues. Bulk mailing is not email marketing. Email marketing is not mailing out advertisements or posters. Email marketing is its own medium, which means it comes with its own requirements and nuances. It's not mass mailing, and it is not cold calling. Cold calling is a term we get from the salespeople. In the days before there was the internet, there used to be telephone directories when people only had landline phones, which means telephone directories had lists of phone numbers and people's addresses. Salespeople would sit down with a telephone directory and painstakingly call every single phone number in the directory and say, I'm calling from so and so. Can I talk to you about our products? You cannot do this on email marketing. Okay? So I'll address questions about how, why, all of these. It's great. I understand you've got questions about this, but are we clear on the things I've said so far? Yeah? So if email marketing is not these things, what is it? Okay, what did I say? Questions at the end? Stay with me, listen to what I'm saying. Okay? This is something called permission marketing. Permission marketing is something a lot of modern marketers are starting to think about. I really like this quote which says, losers try to convince people that they are thirsty, winners sell ice water in the desert. Some marketers today still don't realize in today's day and age, you should not, cannot, and don't have to convince people to buy your product. We are in the information age, which means your customers are smart. They have access to information. When was the last time someone forced you to buy something that you were not interested in? When was the last time someone succeeded in doing that? Do you remember? When was the last time someone forced you to buy something that you did not want to buy? And that's what our customers are like. So if a person is not interested, why would you waste your time and theirs in trying to convince them to buy something? So you might get fooled and buy something that you find doesn't live up to its promise or that you don't need. Are you likely to ever buy from that brand or that salesperson again? Ever? In all likelihood, you'll say never again because they conned me, which means that the marketer has lost, right? We are now in the time of sustainable business. Single transactions don't do it for businesses anymore, which means that you need to think much ahead and say, let me not for the sake of one transaction, let me not risk losing my entire relationship with the person. Seth Godin says, why offer people services that they don't want? All of these have fed into a thought process called permission marketing. Permission marketing involves a lot of things. At the foremost, permission marketing is about understanding who really needs your product and speaking to them, building a relationship with them rather than bombarding your message at everyone and trying to convince people or force people to buy your product. It's a waste of time, money, and effort. Permission marketing actually shows better results than the other kind of marketing, specifically on digital, on emails especially. Permission marketing has resulted in 60 to 80% of the leads, as opposed to the other kind, which gets only 20 to 40%. Permission marketing based emails get 20 to 50% response rates, as opposed to the other kind, which get only 1 to 5% response rates. This means that permission marketing is also a lot more efficient for you as the marketer from a budget and time standpoint, right? Efficiency standpoint. So, permission marketing, let's think about what are all the things that go into permission marketing when it comes to email. Rule number one is only mail people who have said they want to receive mails from you. Someone who has not agreed to receive mails from you is not interested in you, is probably not even aware of you, which means you need to make them aware of you. And we'll talk about that as we come to the email marketing, the digital marketing strategy. Email is not the best way to make people aware of you. Email is not the best way to start off saying, hello, I'm so and so, because that is cold calling. There are several other methods which are ways to make a person aware. Email marketing is a great way to extend a relationship, take it from just mere acquaintanceship to a relationship. Let's take it beyond that. So you start off with only mailing opted in consumers, opted in database, which means people who have given you permission to mail them. You send them emails that are relevant to them, that are interesting to them. Most of us here don't even look at the promotions folder, and we are marketers because we are assuming that that's not going to be relevant to us. After today, you're all going to go and look because I've just told you how it is relevant to you. So people will only read what is relevant to them. Why would you take the effort of creating an email and sending it unless it has a chance of getting opened? And people are smart enough not to open anything that doesn't seem to be relevant to them. Which means that to maximize your chances of getting through, you need to make sure it's relevant to them. This is part of permission marketing. So, smart marketers are people who use email to establish a conversation, build loyalty, and nurture engaged readers into prospects. I know this is a lot of jargon, so let me just break it down. Smart marketers are using email to build a conversation. A conversation is two-way. One of the biggest differences between email marketing and traditional media such as advertising is that email marketing is two-way. Email marketing is interactive. Advertising is one way. Advertising is what is called a broadcast. Email marketing is not a broadcast. Email marketing is interactive, which means that it allows for a lot of things that traditional marketing does not. Which is why you should not try and impose the rules of traditional marketing on email marketing. That's why don't put an ad into email and expect it to work. But email can do things that traditional advertising can't. And that's build a conversation. Conversations help you build trust and loyalty with people. And if you build a relationship of trust and loyalty, they will stay with you and your business through the entire lifetime of their purchases. You don't need to go and do any hard sell then. That's the modern method of marketing now. Clear? Are we clear? I'll address all questions at the end. But everyone's with me so far? These are some of the most common problems that customers face, and we are all customers as well as marketers. One thing I'm going to ask all of you to do throughout is move from thinking of yourselves as marketers and think of yourselves as customers. We were all customers before we became marketers, right? We are also currently customers as well as marketers. But we seem to forget that when we create our brand communication. When we create our communication, we are all about my brand wants to say this, my brand wants this, my company wants that. We never stop to think about what is it that the customer wants. I usually turn around and ask people, if you were the customer and you received this email, would you open it? And if the person says no, then ask them, then why are you sending it out? If you know that you yourself would not open it as a customer, why are you assuming someone else would? Isn't that a wasted effort? So that's a very simple check that you can do to try and see whether your marketing is on point or not. Some of the most common reasons, and these are reasons that we have, that we don't like emails coming in because they're bombarding us with too many emails. The same sender is sending us too many emails. It's not relevant to us, or we don't know who's sending us this. That's why we don't want to open it. So there are trust issues. These are the three most common reasons why customers are averse to emails. But these are actually really easy problems to get around. I'll show you how to get past trust issues of customers between today and next week's session. Too many emails is really a matter of understanding your customers. You tell me, Ranjan, will you open an email if it is relevant to you? That's your answer. There's no law about it. You want to make sure your customer receives your communication, right? And that's all there is to it. But what is relevant is something that needs effort. That needs effort on your end as a marketer to understand them. And that's something we will address, especially when it becomes to content and the database. Let's think about database for a minute. What do you understand of database? Database is a term that gets thrown around a lot when we talk about email marketing, right? So, what do we understand of database? Customer details, what else? Email IDs. So, here's another myth that I'm busting. Database is not just a list of email addresses. Okay, so I'm going to stop for a minute. Guys, do we remember my first rule of the webinar? Your questions, I will address them at the end. See, it's a little distracting when you ask a question because then I want to answer your question. That's just going to extend our session longer. How many who over here wants to sit till 3 o'clock? I know I don't want to, but I want to make sure that all of you are getting it, right? So if I keep getting interrupted with your questions, I'm afraid that will happen. I keep looking at the chat window because I want to make sure that you're getting what I'm saying right now. Okay, I've already told you that I will address database in detail. If I'm asking you right now, just please stay with me. Respect that, please, because I really want to make sure that we finish on time. And I can only do that if you cooperate with me and go along with what we've agreed on. Okay. Okay, so that's a lot of big terms, Harshraj. You're right. But keeping it very simple, a database is more than just email addresses. Remember what I said about relevance before this? How can you decide what is relevant to people? If I tell you you have to send an email to my mother and make sure that she opens it, how are you going to do that? You don't know my mother. You have no idea how to send something that she will be interested enough to open, right? Your database contains all that information, and your database is what will help you figure out what to send and when. Let's say you're really interested in movies. If I send you an email every week about the latest movies, will you open it or not? Let's say you let's say you're a movie reviewer and I send you listings of the preview shows of movies. Is that something you will open or not? Are those emails? Even if I send you these emails every 2 days, you will still open them because these are relevant. So the frequency of emails is directly related to the relevance. If something is relevant, you will open it. No, says Smriti. So, Smriti, give me something that is relevant to you. Give me a topic that's relevant to you, that you are interested in. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead. Guys, please participate. If I ask a question, okay, so that's where there is a tricky balance. I was assuming, I did say that if you're a reviewer, you will want to know about every single premiere preview show that happens, right? So, whatever is of relevance to you, you will not mind its frequency. But if I were to send you mails about tractor equipment, if I send you a mail every month, are you likely to open it? Once a month doesn't seem like a lot. But still, you will say, I'm not interested in tractor equipment. Why should I receive it even once a month, right? So, frequency and relevance go hand in hand. Your database will help you understand your customers at an individual level and figure out exactly what to mail them, how often to mail them, when to mail them. So, your database is a roadmap for your email campaigns. Exactly. So, your database has to be more than just a list of email addresses, it's a picture of your audience. These are some of the kind of things that a database contains. We look at this in more detail. How do you procure this information? How do you use this information to turn it into email strategy? All of these we'll look at in detail in session 4. But our first question is, how do I make sure my email lands in that mailbox? It's a combination of all these things. How do I make sure this email is relevant? How do I make sure this email is getting past all those technology barriers? This is a question of deliverability. So, deliverability is the science of getting your email through to the recipient's mailbox. Deliverability is all about maximizing that and ensuring that your email has as little wastage as possible. Any email that does not get delivered is a wasted email. In addition to that, you're also getting penalized for it, which means that it hurts your chances of future emails getting delivered. We'll see how that works in the second half of today's session. That brings us to the end of the first session. Are we ready for a knowledge check? Let's get started. All right, so now that you have an overview of what email marketing is, and I think we are all agreed that ensuring that your email gets through to the recipient is the first order of business. After which we can think about how good the email looks and the database and other tools and so on and so forth. Let's get into that. This is the science of deliverability. Now, this is a screenshot from my mailbox spam folder. Look at the kind of emails that have landed up in spam. Let's actually do this. Everybody, if you can open your mailboxes and go into your spam folder, look at the kind of emails that have landed in spam. You'll notice in my mailbox there's SBI credit card, ICICI Bank, Ghana Bears, ICICI Lombard, IIM Kashipur. These are all known senders. They are big names and they've landed in the spam folder. Do you find any such surprises in your own spam folder? Take a minute and go and look at your own spam folder. What do you see, Pratik? Do you have a surprising? I've enabled labels, Narinder, in my Gmail. That's why. eBay. Okay. HDFC. Right. So why are they landing in spam? Let's try and understand this. If big companies like this can land up in the spam folder, then, well, that means that anyone can, right? Okay, Reliance General Insurance. So, first challenge is, how do you get into the mailbox? I'm going to start by explaining how email works. Okay, all right, some of you are still coming back with the names. IDFC. That's one of the reasons, yes, but let's break it down and let's not be generic about it, saying it might be because of it might be because of that. Deliverability is about making sure all the gaps are plugged, right? So let's identify every single reason, every single barrier along the way, and ensure that they are all plugged adequately. How many people here? Is there anyone here who's familiar with networking technology? Anyone here who's a techie or a networking professional, maybe? How many people here are afraid of technology or a little worried about the, maybe that's like a concern area? Okay, so that's actually good. Okay, so some of you have studied it in engineering. Those of you who don't know, don't worry at all. It's not too complicated. What I'm going to do is give you some basic concepts, very basic concepts. I'm not going to teach you network engineering. I'm not going to teach you too much of technology. I'm going to give you a few very basic starting ABC points so that you understand how deliverability impacts email marketing and what you can do to manage that better. So for those of you who are already familiar with this, that's great. This might be a little basic for you. We can discuss, if you have any thoughts about it, we can discuss that later. But my request would be that you don't add further complicated concepts here, because this is something that people who are not familiar with tend to find a little intimidating. So let's not confuse everyone in the class. I want to make sure that everyone gets this, but only what they require. You don't need to be weighed down with concepts that you're not likely to use in the future. Okay, so I'm going to give you three concepts only. Stay with me and I will make it as simple as possible. Those of you, this is specifically for people who are not familiar with it at all. So the first idea is something called a server. How many people are familiar with Udupi restaurants? Bombay used to have a lot of them. There are fewer now, but it still has Udupi restaurants. Udupi restaurants are restaurants run by people from Udupi. All of them follow one simple model. When you enter an Udupi restaurant, there will be a person who directs you to a table. Then a second person will come to you and take your order. A third person will come and serve you water. A fourth person will come and serve you your food. A fifth person will come and give you the bill and collect your money. And a sixth person will come and clean your table. Different people perform different functions, and each person performs that function for every table in the restaurant. Servers are a lot like that. Think of every action that you want to do on the internet: sending an email, posting a Facebook update, doing a Google search, visiting a website. Think of all of these as requests that you have from the internet. Servers are the guys that perform those requests for you, fulfill those requests for you. Can all of you hear me? Okay. So servers are the devices that fulfill those requests for you. Just like the Udupi restaurant staff, every server performs one specific action only. So every server has a specialized function, and that server performs only that action. So depending on what you want to do on the internet, your request will be reached to the correct server which performs that action. There are lots of different kinds of servers, and there are hundreds of servers all over the world. So if you want to visit the Digital Vidya website, you are requesting the internet to load the Digital Vidya website. It's a web server that will load the website for you. If you want to do other things, there will be other servers that will perform this request for you. Think of the entire internet as a collection of servers all networked with each other. All servers are connected to each other. That's what the internet is. It's nothing but a network of servers all over the world, and there are hundreds of such servers. Clear? Yes, no? There are two types of servers that are relevant to you specifically. Okay? Now, how many people are familiar with post offices? I know this is the digital generation, but all of you are familiar with how post offices work. So, if you have to send a letter, you go and post it in your post box. The postman will come and take the letters in the post box, take it to the post office. In the post office, it will get sorted and it will get reorganized. All the mail that has come in from all the post boxes in the area will all get sorted, organized, and reallocated to all the places they're supposed to go to. And then the postman will go out and deliver those email to those letters to all those places. It might get sent to other post offices, which in turn will send out those mails to all the addresses that they have to go to. So the post office is performing two functions: it's receiving emails and it is sending emails, right? When it comes to servers, each of these functions is done by a different server. So sending emails is done by something called an SMTP server, or a simple mail transfer protocol server. And receiving email is done by something called a mail server, It receives, organizes, and stores email. Take a minute to read this and understand this. It works exactly the same way as a post office, except that the post office does both these functions. In the case of the internet, two different servers perform each of these functions. Making sense? Yes, no? Where is the confusion, Manoj? Did you understand what I've said so far? What do you mean by is it only my server or all servers? The internet is a network of servers which perform different functions. An SMTP server's function is to send emails. A mail server's job is to receive, organize, and store emails. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, here's another term, and this is something called a router. A router's job is to ensure that your request reaches the correct server and the response comes back to you. So, let me give you an example or a metaphor for this. Let's say that you're in Bombay and you want to get to Pune. You turn around and ask someone on the road, how do I get to Pune? They tell you, go to the bus station. So you go to the bus station and you ask someone standing there, how do I get to Pune? They tell you, go and buy a ticket at that window. So you go to the window and you ask them, I want to get to Pune. That person says, which bus do you want to take? And you say, I want to reach Pune by 9 p.m. today. So the person at the window will say, go to that board over there that lists out the schedule of all the buses leaving and go and pick the bus that you want and come back and tell me, I'll give you a ticket for it. So you go and check the schedule and come back and you say, I want to take the 7 o'clock bus. I want to take the 6 o'clock bus. And I also want to know whether this bus passes through Lonavala or not. The person at the counter says, I don't actually know, but let me ask my colleague who's sitting next to me. So he turns around and asks his colleague and then gives you the answer and gives you the ticket. Now, what is happening over here? Your query is being passed on to different. So, your query in this case, your need is to go to Pune. And this is passing on from person to person. Every aspect of it is getting addressed until you reach the correct person who can answer all your questions. On the internet, you don't need to do any of this. It all gets done for you. So a router is the one that takes your query and makes sure that it reaches a server that can address your request and make sure that the response comes back to you. Making sense? Everyone absolutely clear on this? It's a metaphor, but it's a very, very simple metaphor. The internet is not really that confusing. So think of the entire internet as nothing but hundreds of servers and routers all over the planet connected to each other. I don't have another example, Amita. What did you not understand in this? This was not an example, it was a metaphor. You have a request for the internet. Everything that you do on the internet is a request. You are requesting the internet, right? You are requesting the internet to load a website. You're requesting the internet to send an email for you. You're requesting the internet to retrieve your email. You are requesting the internet to post an update on Facebook. Every single one of these is performed by a different kind of server. You don't need to worry about which server and where it is located, how to contact that server. A router will ensure that your query reaches the correct server, gets addressed, and reaches back to you. Yes. So everything that you do on the internet, when you want to visit the Digital Vidya website, what do? You go to a browser and you type in www.digitalvidya.com. That is a request you are posting to the internet. The internet, the router will then make sure that it reaches the correct server, which in this case is the web server that Digital Vidya is using. And it will return the web server's response to you, which means it will load the page for you. Is everyone clear on that? I want to make sure all of you understand this clearly. Clear? You don't have to complicate it with other things. Yeah? That's all the internet is that you need to keep in mind. As a user, you don't need to worry about routers, you don't need to worry about servers. And all of this is being done in a fraction of a few seconds. So you post your query. There are different kinds of servers all over the world, Manoj. Digital Vidya has a website, so there is a server that manages the website. Digital Vidya has an intranet. There is a server that handles all the files and the information that they've stored. They have an email program because the coordinators and the employees of Digital Vidya have their own email addresses. There is an SMTP server and a mail server to handle all that. Making sense? Okay. Now here's your third concept. Three concepts I told you. So servers, routers. The third one is something called IP address. IP address, and I'm going to give you the definition before that. IP address is a unique string of numbers assigned by the internet service provider or the ISP to every single device that connects to the internet via that ISP. Take a minute, read that definition. And come back when you finish reading. Done? Let me explain that. Okay? Another metaphor. So think of, okay, first of all, does everybody know what an ISP is? Your ISP or internet service provider is the guys that you pay at the end of each month for providing internet to you. Yes, Airtel is an internet service provider. I think Tikona is, yeah. Okay, everyone who can't hear me, please call tech support. Okay, so we all understand what internet service provider is. Hang on, step by step, Amita. Hold on, hold on. Are we clear? Internet service provider? When you're out on the road, what is your internet service provider? Do all of you exactly? So, which would be what? Mobile internet, exactly. It would be your Vodafone or your Airtel, whichever is your mobile phone network. When you're at home, whatever is your internet service provider which provides your home internet connection would be the internet service provider. When you're in office, whatever is the service that your office, your company is using would be the internet service provider. So the internet service provider, each internet service provider is providing internet to hundreds of devices. All of us know what devices are, right? Laptops are devices, mobile phones are devices, computers are devices, printers are devices, servers are devices, routers are devices. We are all clear what devices are, right? Anything that you use to connect to the internet is a device, a physical device that connects to the internet. Okay? Every single device that is connected to the internet is assigned a unique address. The address is a string of numbers. And it's a unique string of numbers, which means at any point of time, that device has only one IP address, and that IP address is assigned to only that one single device in the whole world. So think of it this way. Let's say that I own a room, okay? I own this really, really large hall. all of you are walking into the hall. The minute, let's say the first person to enter is Amita. The minute Amita enters, I put a red hat on her head. As long as she's walking around inside the room, sitting in the room, she's wearing this red hat on her head. Then Chirag walks into the room and I put a blue hat on his head. Manoj walks into the room and I put a green hat on his head. At any point of time, only one hat on any head, and one person can only wear one hat, right? Now Chirag decides to leave the room, so I take the blue hat off his head when he exits the room. And Richa enters the room at the same time, I put the blue hat on Richa's head. IP address works in exactly the same way. In this metaphor, I'm the internet service provider. So I am the Vodafone or Airtel or whatever it is. This room is the internet connection that I'm offering. And each of your heads are the devices. The hats are the IP addresses. So when your device connects to my network, I assign an IP address to that device. And it's a unique IP address. I have a bank of such IP addresses. Just like in my metaphor, I have one cupboard full of these hats. I take out one hat, whatever hat is available, and put it on someone's head. And the minute someone leaves the room or that internet network, that IP address gets taken back. At different points of time, Smriti, not at the same time. So the minute a device disconnects from the internet, and devices disconnect in how many ways? When you shut down your laptop after the session is over, it disconnects from the internet, right? Let's say you take your laptop out, you're right now at home, you finish the webinar, you shut it down, or maybe you just close it, and then you leave, you take your computer out and you go to office or you go to your friend's place. When you go and sit down at your friend's place, your friend has a different internet service provider. So you have disconnected from the service provider that you're using currently, which means that IP address will be returned to the internet service provider and it will get assigned to some other device that is connecting to the same internet service provider. Are we clear on that? Are we clear on what I've said so far? So IP address is that unique identifier based on which all the security measures of email technology work. Manoj, questions at the end, please. I'm going to ignore questions now, okay? So your IP address is that unique identifier based on which all the security measures of email are implemented. It's true, there is something called IP address tracking, which most of you have heard of. IP address tracking is not a simple matter of, I look at the IP address and I can find the name of the person who used it. This is why it's not that simple. If you manage to catch an IP address, you will be able to identify which internet service provider assigned that IP address, because each internet service provider has a bank of available IP addresses. The internet service provider will be able to tell you which area, which geography was assigning that IP address within their entire network. Think of Vodafone, it is spread all over the country, right? So they'll be able to tell you this IP address is assigned to Bombay, maybe even further than Bombay, within a certain area in Bombay. But beyond that, it's going to be very difficult to track exactly which device used that IP address at that particular point of time. That's why IP address is a pointer, but it's not an immediate identifier of person or use. But it still has some kind of identification there. Are we completely clear on these three things? Servers, routers, and IP addresses. Now, this entire thing that I described about IP address, this means that let's say that you have your phone right now. I'll address questions at the end, please. Guys, just listen to me. I am coming up with the answers. It's really difficult if I keep getting interrupted with this, because then I have to backtrack. Just follow, just listen, okay? All your questions will get answered. I'll either answer it right now or I will answer it at the end. Just listen to what I'm saying. Now, your phone right now is under your home Wi-Fi. The minute you step out, what's going to happen? It's going to switch to your mobile data services, right? Yes, no, right? That means your IP address will change. The mobile data services will assign you an IP address from its own bank. And you may be traveling, which means from area to area, again, your IP address will be changing. And then you walk into office, you might connect to the office Wi-Fi, and there again it will change because it's a different service provider. So IP address is changing by location and by internet service provider. All of these give rise to the term dynamic IP address. Dynamic IP address means constantly changing IP address. As long as your device is connected to this particular internet service provider in this location, it will retain this IP address. The minute either of those changes, either the internet service provider changes or the location changes or both change, the IP address changes because it's a dynamic IP address. There is one kind of device whose IP address does not change at all. It has what is called a static IP address. Any guesses which kind of device that would be and why? An internet service provider is not a device. No, it's not a desktop. Why would a camera have a static IP address? Which device is that, Smriti? Why would a server have a static IP address? Okay, home appliances, that's interesting. Okay, that's a new answer. There aren't that many home appliances that are internet connected, but there are a few. So, yes, that's an interesting. My question was which device would whose IP address would not change? So the answer is a server. A server's IP address does not change for a very simple reason. A server is not moved and a server is never switched off. A server is on 24/7. If you wake up at 3 in the morning and try to visit digitalvidya.com, will the website load or not? It will, right? Because the web server is working 24/7. If at 2 in the morning you decide to check your email, the emails will load. If you decide to send an email, it will get sent because the mail servers, the SMTP servers, they're all working 24/7. That means they are never disconnected from the internet. Servers are also not like mobile phones, which means they don't move around. So, those are very rare cases where a server is down. Server management is a massive exercise. It's a very, very important aspect of managing the internet. One of the key criteria is that the server will not need to be switched off. It's a very rare case where the server is down. Server managers make contingency plans for things like floods and riots and earthquakes and things like that. Because a server should absolutely never go down. It has to be on 24/7. For a server to go down would be like you're switching the internet off, at least one part of the internet off. You can't do that. So a server will have static IP addresses. Making sense? Yes, no. Okay? I'm not going to get into any further detail on this because this is going to, any further detail will not really be necessary for you as an email marketer. Okay, I'm going to come out of this for a minute now and map out the path that your email takes. If you send an email to your coordinator right now, how long will it be before it reaches his or her mailbox? How long does it take? A minute or less, right? Let's look at what goes on in that minute, okay? So, what is the process that you follow when you want to send an email? Let's say you want to send an email to your coordinator. What would you do? How do you send an email? Write the email address, then exactly. You write the message, write the email address, and hit send. And the subject line, right? And hit send. And within a minute, less than a minute usually, it reaches the end user, the recipient, right? Let's look at what goes on in that time. So here's me. I am writing my email. This is Ramya's mailbox. Okay. I hit send. Where does it go? It goes out into the internet. So the minute I hit send, that is a request I'm posting to the internet. Which means what is the next step? What's going to happen? This is a request to the internet, right? It'll go to the router first, exactly, because the router is the one which will tell it where it should go. So router at Ramya's end. Okay, so there's a router there. The router will do what? Where will the router send this on? Exactly. So the router will say this is an email to be sent, which means I need to send it to a server which can perform the action of sending the email, which means I need to take it to the SMTP server. SMTP server, not receiving server. SMTP server, be very clear on the terminology. SMTP server's job is to send emails. So the SMTP server will say, okay, I need to send this email to Ramya's coordinator at Digital Vidya. So what will the SMTP server do? It will send it on to the mail server. That's correct. The coordinator's mail server is the Digital Vidya mail server because his email address is at Digital Vidya. DV mail server. What will the DV mail server do? The mail server's job is to receive email, organize and store it, and also make sure Ajay gets it. So you're right again. It will send it on to the router saying, please do the needful, and the query needs to be completed and completed with the users, which means it needs to get sent to Ajay. So this is a router. This is yet another router at Ajay's end. And finally, the router will say this is an email which needs to go to Ajay. In my system, this is an email that needs to go to Ajay. This is Ajay's mailbox. Absolutely. So clear, you can see how all these different devices and steps are linked to each other. Oops. Are we clear? Simple so far? Okay. So now where in this path does an email get stopped then? Keep in mind that this mail server is an entry point into an entire system. And systems can pass on problematic things like viruses very, very quickly, which means that there need to be blocks and checks and barriers. Remember all those mails, the phishing mails, spoofing mails, spam mails, all those? There need to be security measures in place to weed out all of those. Let's look at security in this way. Everybody's familiar with airports, right? Everyone here has gone through an airport at some point of time. What are all the security measures that an airport puts you through? Let's say you have to fly to another city. There's an ID check. What else? The luggage gets scanned. What all goes into security check? What are all the things that they check? What are all the things they check, and what are all the points they check at passport if it's an international trip, visa, body scan, your luggage gets checked. You also get checked at multiple points, right? You get checked at the entrance, you get checked at the counter, you also get checked at the entrance to the aircraft, right? boarding pass, all of these. The internet security systems are not very different. Most of these checks happen at the mail server level. So let's look at these checks. The first check is to ensure that you are not carrying any problematic items. That's something they check right at the start, right? You have to put your baggage through the scanner. So this is something called a firewall. A firewall checks your emails to ensure that there are no viruses in it. So think of the firewall as one big protective wall, Great Wall of China around the entire system. Before it can even get through to the mail server, every single thing entering the server will get checked by the firewall. A firewall is ensuring that your email is not carrying any problematic things such as a virus. The second check is something called a spam filter. A spam filter looks at the text of your email, the words and phrases that are there in the email, and ensures that there are no patterns that match patterns by known spammers. So, spammers have been at it for many, many years, and spammers usually follow certain patterns, the kind of words that they use, the kind of phrases that they use. So, the spam filter is doing nothing more than scanning through the text of your email to see whether you sound like a spammer. Think of this like the facial recognition or the random facial checks that high security areas do. High security areas like airports usually have some plainclothes officers walking around, especially during high alert times, and they are randomly scanning people's faces to see whether they look like anyone problematic, like anyone on the wanted list. A spam filter checks every single email's text to see whether it is matching any of the patterns shown by known spammers. Clear so far? Okay, so that's two checks. Then there's something called a authentication check. ID proof, you said, right? What is the ID proof doing? The ID proof is proving that if you're carrying a ticket that says Smriti, you are Smriti. It's not Ramya pretending to be Smriti and traveling, right? So that's an authentication check. It's nothing but an ID proof. So an authentication check ensures that you are who you say you are. As the sender, your email, if the email is coming from Ranjan, it is Ranjan who's sending the email. And then there is something called a reputation check. So if you have ever been pulled up for any kind of criminal activity, you might find it difficult to get through an airport. Because airports, especially at high security times, are keeping a watch for people who are in their database. A reputation check works a lot like that. It looks at your history, your past actions. And because this is email, it looks at the sender's history as a sender in the past. Whether you have performed any of those wrong actions that I told you about in the first half. Remember that the internet does not forget, and servers all talk to each other. So, a reputation check is essentially checking to see whether you've done anything problematic in the past. All of these checks together are there to protect the end recipient. So, every single email that passes is checked to ensure that it's not carrying any problematic content like viruses. It's not being sent by someone who might be a spammer. It's being sent by a legitimate sender and not someone pretending to be someone else. And the sender has not done anything terribly bad in the past. Simple so far? Yes, no. Yeah? There is one more check that happens, and that check happens not at the mail server but at the mailbox level. The email system is really very low robust, and this check is called a spam filter. Now you'll notice that spam filter, there's one here and there is one here. This spam filter is managed by the server administrator. This spam filter is managed by the user of this mailbox. So every time you get an email which you mark as spam, your mailbox spam filter is learning from you. What you are doing is modifying your spam filter settings. So every time you mark as an email as spam, any future emails coming from that sender or emails that look like that email will get sent to the spam folder, right? That's because you have changed your spam filter settings accordingly. So this spam filter is under your control, the user's control, whereas this spam filter is under the server administrator's control. Making sense? I won't call it a filter system because filter is used only for spam filters. It's a 5-part security system. So now does it make a lot more sense? 20% of emails getting stopped are failing any one of these checks. What happens when an email fails one of these 4 checks? An email is only allowed to pass if it passes all these checks. If it is not carrying viruses, it does not have content that sounds like a spammer, it is being sent by a legitimate sender, and the sender has a good reputation. If any one of these fails, then the email will not be allowed to go through. Clear? Yes? So here's the same schematic again. I've just put reputation and authentication together to the right. You'll also notice this is split into 3 over here at this end. This is because in today's times, there are 3 different ways by which people access their email. You might access your email on the web, which means you go to a browser and type in gmail.com and put in a password and access your mail. Or you may look at your mail app on your computer, on your mobile phone or your tablet. Or you may have a desktop client like Outlook or Mail if you have an Apple computer, which means that you download your email into your machine and then you can check it even without an internet connection. Your spam filter settings synchronize across. All your settings today, in today's current systems, all your settings synchronize across. So if you log into your webmail and you see there are 10 emails, you read 2 of them, and then you go and check it on your mobile phone app, you'll find there are 10 mails of which 2 are showing as read, right? The same thing will synchronize across even in terms of spam filter settings. So if you mark an email as spam on your mail app, it will get marked as spam even on your webmail and your mail client. Clear so far? No, I'm not going to repeat any slide right now, okay? I'm going slow enough as it is. I will repeat anything at the end, okay? Just pay attention. Now, what happens when an email fails any one of these checks? No, Chirag, it synchronizes across. It's not just app. If you do it on your mail client, also it will synchronize across. If you do it on your webmail, also it will synchronize across. Synchronize means it matches across. Whatever changes you make on any one will get made across. Now, if your email fails any one of these, it is set to bounce. Everyone has heard this term bounce, right? Email bounce. There are very specific reasons an email bounces. And one of the things that you should be keeping track of is your emails that bounce. Your entire deliverability hinges on what is called bounce rate. So here's your first metric that you need to measure as email marketers. Bounce rate is number of emails that bounced divided by number of emails that were sent as a percentage. Clear? So if you send out 100 emails and 10 of them bounce, what's your bounce rate? 10%, right? We'll talk later about how to track this, but assuming that you can track it, you will need to understand why your emails bounced so that you can prevent future emails from bouncing. There are 2 kinds of bounces. These are called soft bounces and hard bounces. A soft bounce happens in 3 cases. A soft bounce happens when the recipient's mailbox is full. In a few rare cases, if the mail server is down, because servers are literally never allowed to go down, or if your email message is too large. You may have heard this, you may have even told someone your mailbox is bouncing. When does someone's mailbox bounce? When they haven't checked their email in a long time. So their mail is full, their mailbox is full. There's no place for a new email to fit, so the mail bounces. That's what is meant when you say a mailbox is bouncing emails. So that will be a soft bounce. If you send an email that has 20 GB of attachments, again, it may not go through. It will soft bounce. You can safely assume that if there is a soft bounce, it is happening either because your mail is too large or because you sent it to someone who hasn't checked their mail in a really long time. The third case is a really, really rare case. When your email soft bounces, it is thought to be a temporary condition because a mailbox can be cleared, an email can be removed of attachments. So the SMTP server will typically try again. It usually tries again 3 times. Usually it will try to send it again after a minute. And then if it still doesn't go, it might try to send it again after 12 hours. If it still doesn't go, it might try to send it again after 24 hours. If after 3 times the mail still bounces, then it will send you a notification saying this mail could not be delivered. You might have seen an email sometimes saying that your mail could not be delivered. Usually that happens after an hour or maybe sometimes even the next day. So what's happened there is a soft bounce. What do you do if your email soft bounces? What are some things that you can do? How can you prevent a soft bounce? The reasons for a soft bounce are right there on the slide. So what do you think you can do to prevent a small soft bounce? Exactly. Keep your emails really small and also make sure to mail people who are active in their mailboxes. If someone hasn't touched their email in 2 years, then maybe not such a good idea to mail them because it's very likely to bounce, right? So that's how you minimize your soft bounces. The other kind of bounce is a lot more serious, and that's called a hard bounce. A hard bounce happens when the recipient's mail address is invalid. For example, if I'm working for a company called Jasmine Rose, I have Ramya at jasminerose.com, then I leave this company. What happens to my email address? The company shuts down my email address, right? So if you send an email to that email address is invalid, that would be a hard bounce. Or if the domain name doesn't exist, what's a domain name? Every single email address in the world follows the simple pattern of person's name @ domain name.com, right? This is the format of every single email address in the world. So the third part of it, which is domain name, if that doesn't exist anymore for some reason, or if the email got caught by a firewall, which means what? What does it mean if an email gets caught by a firewall? It has a virus in it, exactly. Or if it gets caught by a spam filter, which means that there is a problem in the text. It sounds like a spammer. In all these cases, your email will hard bounce. In the case of a hard bounce, the SMTP server will not send it again. Your bounce rate is a combination of soft bounces and hard bounces, and the tracking systems will tell you how many soft bounces you had and how many hard bounces you had. Okay, so guys, I am not taking questions at the moment. I'm ignoring questions, okay? You need patience. Just listen and let me finish, okay? Because you're distracting the others if you're asking questions right now. Just have patience. I'm giving you the answers. Your bounce rate is a combination of soft bounces and hard bounces, and you need to keep track of this for a few reasons. Because if your bounce rate is bad, first of all, if your bounce rate is very high, that means most of your emails did not even reach the mailbox. You're part of that 20% of emails that did not even reach the mailbox. Secondly, this gets recorded in your history and hurts you in your future email transactions. How so? So this is an example of a bounce notification. You've all seen bounce notifications. If your emails bounce too often, or if too many of the emails that you send bounce, you could get put on something called a blacklist. A blacklist is a list of senders and IP addresses whose emails bounce very frequently. Why is a blacklist serious? Because mail servers reference blacklists every time they are assessing an email to be passed on or not. It's part of the reputation check. Blacklists are maintained by different entities all over the world, and there are hundreds of such blacklists. Every single mail server in the world also looks at a blacklist. So every time you send an email, the mail server will check all the security measures. It'll also check to see whether your details are there on any of the blacklists that it refers to. And if you appear on any of the blacklists, the chances are your email will not be allowed to go through. So this means that if your emails are bouncing this time, next time there's an even higher chance that they will bounce. So even more emails will bounce, which means that the third time, then even more emails will bounce. And if you don't address it, then it might reach a point where none of your emails are reaching the end user. There's also something called a spam trap. Quickly, how many of you remember mouse traps from Tom and Jerry? Remember those traps that the human beings or Tom would keep trying to trap Jerry in? Something like this, right? A mouse trap looks something like this, and it has a piece of cheese to attract mice. And the minute the mouse enters and to eat the cheese, the trap clamps down on it and traps the mouse. A spam trap works in exactly the same way for email. A spam trap is used to trap all these people. People who send out emails that are unsolicited. That means they're sending out emails to people who did not ask for these emails. People who send out emails to non opted in databases. That means they're sending emails to people whose permission they do not have. Poor database management. They're sending it to people who have unsubscribed from their database. If someone is unsubscribed, you should not be mailing them. How does it do this? So, a spam trap is a very simple mechanism. A spam trap is nothing more than an email address that is not used to send or receive any emails. Now, if I don't use my email address to send any emails, my email address should not be registered in anyone's mailbox. And I don't use it to receive any emails, which means I'm not sharing it with anyone. That means nobody should be mailing me. If I still find email in it, what does it mean? This is an email inbox which I do not use to send or receive emails. If I still am getting emails in it, what does it mean? Unsolicited emails, right? Spammers, right? So anybody whose email appears in my mailbox is a spammer. Can you see how that's exactly like the mousetrap? So the fact that it is an email address is the cheese, it's the trap. And anyone who gets this email address and mails me on this gets caught as a spammer. Yes, absolutely. Harvest mailing, all of these, or mail server attack, all of these. So a spam trap is used to catch people who do this. Why is a spam trap also important? Because just like blacklists, mail servers also reference with certain spam traps to check whether you have been caught in any of them. Blacklists and spam traps are run by different organizations and different entities all over the world. Every single mail server in the world references spam traps as well as mail server as well as blacklists. Okay, these are two things for you to read that you might find interesting about spam traps. You can read this later. So let's take stock of all the barriers that your email is potentially encountering all the things that you need to clear before your email can reach the end recipient. First of all, there's your reputation check, which means what is your history showing? What, what is your history as an email sender? The reputation check looks at what is your track record of high email volumes. This is one of the first things that mail servers check. Do you have a history of sending out large numbers of emails in one go? If you send out something like 50,000 emails in one go, that's one of the fastest triggers. It'll immediately start looking into your history a lot more deeper. Spam complaints. How many people have marked you as spam? Has this particular recipient marked you as spam? Are you on any blacklists? Has this recipient unsubscribed from you? How many people have unsubscribed from you? Are you on any of the spam traps? User engagement stats are looking at how many people have received your emails in the past, how many people have opened your emails, and how many people have clicked on links within the email. Clear? So all of these are part of your reputation. Yes, no? Only Chirag and Bhupesh and Amita got it. Okay. So this is one of the things that your email is going to have to clear well. I'll talk about how to make sure your reputation is good a little after this, but this is one of the first things. You need to have a good reputation as an email sender. And if you are going to be an email marketer, you want to maximize the number of emails you send out reaching the end recipient, which means one of the first things you need to do is make sure you have a clean reputation as a sender to start with. The second thing is, are you who you say you are? This is not something you can do anything about, except please don't pretend to be someone else. If you are genuinely who you say you are, then this is getting taken care of. Remember in the first session, we talked about how spoofing hurts even the senders. So this authentication check is there in place to protect genuine senders like yourself. The authentication check is a technical check which verifies the sender's IP address. It confirms you as an authorized sender, and it checks that the mail has not been changed in transit. You don't have to worry about this. This check is already being done on your emails. So you are protected from other people pretending to be you and sending out emails on your behalf. It helps to check for email spoofing. The third kind of check is your message safe? That is the content of your email. What all gets checked under the content check? The size of the email. Because if it's too large, it could load up the mailbox, the mail servers. The volume of the emails, that is how many emails did you send out. Malicious embeds are things like viruses or any other thing that will download on its own and do something that the recipient doesn't want. Spam words and phrases, so the spam filter is checking for these. Links to word count ratio. When you check your spam filter, your spam folder, you might find an email there, one or two emails there which only contain a single link. Now, all of you are smart enough to know not to click on such an email, right? But there are still people who fall prey to that. They don't see anything in the email, so they just click on the link. And that causes its own share of problems. So the email systems also look into that, and they flag off any emails that only contain links or where the ratio of words to links does not match. There's no limit on the number of links you can include in an email. You can even go up to 100 links, but make sure that you have more words than you have links in an email. Okay? Content is such an important part of deliverability that next week we have an entire session on content. Content is not just about making it fun and interesting, it also ensures good deliverability for you as the sender. So next week we'll look at content in a lot more detail. Here's an example of two examples of emails that fail these checks. The first one just says, "Hello, Idea Smithy, get faster approval at no cost. Click here to submit your details. Thanks and regards, Sonakshi K." Now, given what you've learned, can you guess why this email may not have gotten delivered? Can you take a guess on why? Well, it contains a link. It contains a lot of other words, but look at the sender's address. Exactly, the sender's address looks wrong. It could have failed the authentication check. Exactly. No, there's one link over here, and there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Here's another email. Any guesses why this one may have failed? It only, exactly, no text. So, what I would like all of you to do every day when you check your promotions folder, look at what's happening there. Also, check your spam folder and at least try and guess two or three of the emails. Try and think about why they landed in the spam folder, because that'll ensure that you don't make the same mistakes when you're sending. You might find that there are some genuine senders in there also who made some mistakes like these. They are not all, so these security measures are not 100% foolproof. Sometimes they're a little too rigid, and sometimes genuine senders also get caught in there. You want to make sure you don't make any of those mistakes. So, for example, if you have worded your emails badly, it might end up there because the spam filter thought that you're a spammer. Yes, absolutely. For you to check, because you're going to learn from it every day. So, in total, your email is being judged on three things: your reputation, which is what your history is; authentication, which is are you who you say you are; content, which is what does your email say or have. Right? Which means, how do you get through? I told you I'll let you know how to improve your reputation. There's nothing you can do about authentication. You are who you say you are. Content we'll look at next week. But let's look at reputation. How can you make sure your reputation is above board? You can do something called IP warming. Actually, before that, I'd like all of you to try this. Visit this site. This is a tool called mxtoolbox.com slash aspx dot no blacklists.aspx. Click on this link. You will need to put in your IP address. If you do not know your IP address, do a Google search for what's my IP address. And whatever you get in there, copy paste it into this and click on blacklist check. And come back and tell me what you find. So one blacklist, Chirag is on one blacklist. How about the others? Pratik is on one blacklist. How about the others? Smriti is on 7 blacklists. Is that scaring any of you? 5? Right? So Chirag is not scared. Okay, but the others are. So here's how you can. So now, exactly, you didn't know. So, by the way, the process to get off a blacklist is not very complicated, though it might take some time. What you will need to do is write to the blacklist that you're on. You'll need to research and find the contact information. Usually, MX Toolbox at least gives you the name. You can write to them and explain that you are an email marketer, a genuine email marketer, and ask to get that IP address taken off the blacklist. In addition to that, you can also improve your reputation by something called IP warming. Okay? Are we ready for IP warming? This is super important, so pay attention. IP warming is a fairly simple logical process, and it's something that you should do for at least a month, which is why I'm giving it to you right now. So you can all start doing it today itself. So by the time this webinar is over, your reputation will be much better. Your reputation as a sender will be much better, and you will be ready to start your own company or brand's campaigns. So IP warming works like this. Select a small sample from your database, something like, say, 100 recipients. Okay. Minimize the probable hard bounces. How are you going to do that? I've just told you what a hard bounce is. So how can you minimize a hard bounce? So Richa, that's a good thing if you're not on any blacklist. How can you minimize probable hard bounces? So a hard bounce happens when domain invalid, email address incorrect, spam filter, or firewall catches. Exactly. So make sure the email addresses are correct. That's how you can minimize the probable hard bounces. Step 3 is remove all the unsubscribed addresses. Why? Because if someone is unsubscribed, you should not be mailing them. It will get caught in your reputation check. That will come up in the reputation check that this recipient is unsubscribed from you. Why are you mailing them? Retain only the active addresses, which means people who are active in their mailboxes. Why is this? If someone is not active in their mailbox, what is likely to happen? What's going to happen if someone is not active in their mailbox? Mail will bounce, right? It'll be a soft bounce, exactly. Segment it further. And if you're unfamiliar with segmentation, don't worry, we'll talk about segmentation in detail on day 4. Segmentation essentially means that you are breaking it down into smaller groups and customizing the content specifically for each group. So segment these 100 addresses further. Design an email that's very simple and keep your content short because you don't want it bouncing because it's too heavy, right? And you don't want it triggering off a spam filter. And then you send it and track. MailChimp gives you the stats, user engagement stats. I'll tell you what the stats are. First of all, there is bounce rate, which I've already told you. There's also delivery rate. Delivery rate is number of emails delivered divided by number of emails sent as a percentage. So if I sent 100 emails and 20 of them bounced, what is my delivery rate? %80%, right? Exactly. The next stat that MailChimp tracks that's very important for email marketers is something called an open rate. Open rate is number of emails opened divided by number of emails delivered as a percentage. So let's say 20 emails got opened. What is my open rate? No, it's not 20. It's not 20. First of all, it has to be a percentage, not a number. So how did you get 25%, Manoj? Do explain to the class. How is it 100? 20 emails got opened. Exactly, it's 20 by 80%. Look at the formula I gave you. Guys, please pay attention. I have typed out the formula in the chat window. So open rate is number of emails opened divided by number of emails delivered. It has to be 20 by 80%. Right? And finally, there is something called click rate, which is number of clicks on links within email divided by number of emails opened as a percentage. So 2 clicks What's the click rate? So 2 divided by 20 divided by 80%, right? Got it. Okay. So 4 different stats you have to keep in mind. If you're using MailChimp, or any other email service provider, they will give you these in the reports. So you've got your bounce rate or your delivery rate. These two go hand in hand. You've got your open rate and you've got your click rate. These 4 measures are what determine how successful you are as an email marketer. Today's session has been about maximizing the bounce rate and delivery rate. Let's come back to IP warming. So I've sent out these 100 emails. I'm going to give you the metrics. So sent out 100, bounced 20, opened, what did I say? Bounced was 20, opened 20, clicked 2. Okay? You've all calculated the bounce rate, open rate, click rate for all of these, right? What I'll now do is step 8, which is improve and repeat, which means I go back here. 20 of those emails bounced. So I need to identify why those emails bounced, maybe remove them from my sample and add another 20 which are not likely to bounce. So I have a sample of 100 again. Minimize all the hard bounces, remove the unsubscribed addresses, retain only the active, segment it further, simple design, short content, send it and track it. So in my second iteration, the second time, I sent out 100, I bounced 2, opened 24, clicked 3. What's happening? My bounce rate has gone down, right? Because I've improved on it. Can you see that? Yeah? So I'm going to improve on it one more time and do it again. Now this time, the third time round, I send out 100, bounced 0, opened 43, clicked 2. I track it and do it all over again. So sent 100, bounced 1, opened 67, clicked 24. Number 5. Sent 100, bounced 0, opened 89, clicked 72. What's happening? What do you see from these 5 iterations? Can you see all of these are improving? No, I didn't say that, Chirag. That's another thing altogether, just from these stats. So what's happening to the mail servers in each case? The first time you sent out to the mail server, it would have checked your reputation. It would have found you on those blacklists. It would have looked at all the other things and accordingly decided which mails to send on and which ones not to. So it bounced 20 of those emails. It sent on 80 only. The next time round, the second time round, it's going to go and look at your history, and it's also going to notice that the last email blast that you sent had an 80% delivery rate and a 25% open rate, which will also feed into, remember, user engagement stats. That's one of the things that gets checked in reputation. So it will feed into that, which is why the bounce rate has reduced in the second one. In addition to the fact that you improved it, open rate has also improved. Open rate has everything to do with the recipient, not with the mail server, but presumably you have made it better in the content as well. The third time round, the delivery rate has improved even further. It's also noticing that the last 2 times you sent out, the first time there was 80% delivery rate, the second time there was 98% delivery rate. The fourth time you sent out, it'll notice from 80% delivery rate to 98% delivery rate to 100% delivery rate. The fifth time it'll notice 80% delivery. So delivery rates are going from 80% to 98% to 100% to 99% to 100%. Can you see what's happening? Your reputation is stabilizing. It's improving and then stabilizing. Because what you're doing is undertaking very, very consciously good actions on email. Making sense? This is the process called IP warming. What you're doing is you're building a better reputation over time as a legitimate email sender. As often as you can, Chirag. The more often you do it, the better, right? Even if you reach 100, remember that it can still go down, so keep at it. Once you start your email marketing campaigns, presumably you'll be sending out enough that you don't have to keep doing this, and hopefully you will continue these best practices, which means that your delivery will only continue to be better and better, right? No, look at this. I said segment further, simple design, and short content. I did not say send the same email again and again. You need to keep track of your bounces and manage them well. What do you do if an email is hard bouncing even though it's a valid address? Remember, there are two other reasons an email bounces, hard bounces. That's because it might have gotten caught in a firewall or a spam filter. What you can do is send an email without attachments and maybe with a personal message to see whether that goes through. If that goes through, you know that there's a problem either in the content or in the attachment. Maybe try sending it without attachments. If it still doesn't go through, then you know the problem is with the text in the email because it's getting caught in the spam filter. So, undertake each of these actions. These are all part of being a good email marketer. Email marketing is inexpensive and quick, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't need effort. If you put in the right kind of efforts, then it can yield very good results. There are also tools called bounce handlers. Now, it's okay when you're managing a database of 100. If 20 emails bounce, you can go and manually delete them. But what do you do if you have a database of 50,000? If one person bounces, that's 500 email addresses to remove manually. You'd be better off managing something using something called a bounce handler. A bounce handler will scan your database and come back and tell you which email addresses frequently bounce. MailChimp has an inbuilt bounce handler. So you do not need to invest in a separate bounce handler. Every time you send out a campaign on MailChimp, in the reports, it'll even tell you which email addresses bounced. It'll also allow you to track within your database which recipients open your emails most frequently, which of them respond best, which of them bounce a lot. So, how do you get started finally from an infrastructure point of view? That's my last thing that I need to tell you about. It's one slide only. Are we ready to give feedback on today's session? After that, I'll take you through how to get set up and then we'll go into the knowledge check and the Q&A. I'm going to share the link. Please take a minute and leave your feedback. And let me know when you're done. Come back and tell me when you're done. Thank you. Let's just wait until everyone finishes. Is that everyone? Shall I continue? Okay, I'm going to continue. These are the things that you need to get started as an email marketer, right? You need a computer, you need the internet because emails run on the internet. You need a server to manage your domain and your email, the outgoing emails. You need an email template, which is the content of the email. You also need something called a landing page. Both of these I'll go into details next week. You need an email database. We'll talk about this on day 4, how to use this, how to procure this, how to use this well. For today, let's look at how to get started on these two specifically. You can run an email campaign currently from your own personal email account, like your Gmail account. Your domain name will be whatever your free email service is. You're not paying for it at all, right? It's a cloud based account, which means all your emails are stored on the cloud. You need to connect to the Gmail or Yahoo or whichever it is to connect, and your internet connection is your local broadband. Now, this is the easiest possible way. Setting it up is really easy. All you need to do is set up your free email account and send out your emails. The limitation with this is that all free email services have an upper limit on how many emails you can send. Gmail lets you send 150 emails in a single day. 150 is a very small number for an email marketer. It will not allow you to send any more emails than that in a single day. But the advantage of this is it's free, so the cost is minimal. All you're paying for in this case is the internet connection. Now, when you want to get really serious about sending out large volumes of emails, what do? You need to amp up these, right? This is what very large companies do. Large companies always, anyway, email marketers, it's always more professional to send out an email from your own company domain rather than sending it out from a free account like Gmail. One of the things that will happen is if you send it out through a free email service, it makes you look unprofessional. In addition, it might get mistaken for spam. People and systems will not take you as seriously. So, one of the things you definitely need is to figure out your domain name. You need to have your email address at a valid, legitimate sounding, professional sounding domain name. And you need a server that can host those domains. If you own your own server, there's literally no limit to the number of emails you can send. You'll also need an internet connection that can work accordingly quickly and manage that volume. So currently, if you try and send out a lot of emails or you try and do a download on a Saturday night, especially tonight being 31st, you'll find that it's very slow. And that's because you're sharing your bandwidth, your internet bandwidth with hundreds of other users. A lease line or a dedicated line is a connection where you are the only user. It's super expensive. Mail servers are also super expensive. Managing them, maintaining them are also very expensive propositions. Setting this up needs an expert, a network level administrator, but the volumes of emails you can send out is pretty much unlimited. This is a very, very expensive proposition. So, this is the very other end of it. This is what a company like Google or MailChimp would be doing. Think about the number of emails that Google has to process on a daily basis. They would definitely need things like this. Now, you as email marketers don't need this either. You need something that's better than the beginner level, but you need something that's less expensive and easier to use than this. One option is for you to not buy the mail server. You can actually rent mail servers. There are companies like AWS, which is an Amazon company, Amazon as in the e commerce site. They have an allied company called AWS, which actually rents out mail servers, server functionality. So rental agreements work the same way as any other kind of rental agreements. You'll have to check their site and their company offerings to see. There are several others as well. What you can then do is you don't need to buy the entire server, they will maintain the server. All you're doing is renting the server's capabilities. You will still need an expert to set up the email addresses for you and manage it for you. And your internet connection also, you can, instead of buying a lease line, you can get a higher bandwidth internet connection to handle the number of emails that you need to send. Renting is definitely cheaper than buying in this case. There's another option, which is you don't even have to rent or buy. You can pay an external vendor to manage your server functionality. There are several companies that offer this. Google is one of them. Google Business is their product. Let's say you want email addresses at a certain domain. My favorite example, Jasmine Rose. I want Ramya Pandin at Jasmine Rose to be able to send out 5,000 emails a day. I can purchase this from Google Business, which means that I don't need to do any setup. I don't even need to touch the server, none of that. All I do is pay for the server management facilities and the server hosting. One of the companies that I work for actually had this model. So our company email addresses we would access by going to gmail.com and then typing in our company. So Ramya Pandian at companyname.com with the password and accessing it. This is really easy to set up. It's literally a pay once and you get it. It's ready and up and running. Your email volumes, you can then tailor it to how much you are planning to send out. Your bandwidth, again, you are paying for what you're using. So this, in my opinion, is the most optimal way for most of you as email marketers, because you're not having to take on extra hassles of managing servers, and you're not having to pay for email functionality that or internet functionality that you don't really need, right? You can also go in for providers like MailChimp, which allow you to do a lot of these things, and some of them for free. One of the requirements that MailChimp and services like MailChimp have is that you only use an opted in database. If MailChimp discovers that you're mailing people who have not given you permission to mail, like if they notice you're getting marked as spam, people are unsubscribing too much, they will block your account immediately. This is something that has happened to participants. So if you're planning to use even the free MailChimp, please be very mindful of this. I have one last reading article for you. And that brings us to the end of the session and the knowledge check. Are we ready for the knowledge check?